I'm so excited to have on our guest today, Mr. Tom Kerber. I met him a few weeks ago at an autism summit, and he's really an answer to prayer because I've been asking the Lord for a red light therapy and also near infrared light therapy and knowledge and education. I want to learn more. I know our audience wants to learn more as well. So, Tom is really cool. He's got a background in electronic development. He transitioned into the field of photobiomodulation nearly 2 decades ago. He's recognized, listen to this, for inventing the small blue light device used by dentists to cure fillings. That's right. He's the man who's joining us today. His expertise lies in developing LED based light therapy devices that aid in pain management, addiction rehabilitation, and neurological treatments. You're going to want to see his amazing red light helmet he's going to talk about, but his work has been instrumental in advancing to the field of red light therapy. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Tom Kerber. Tom, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you with us today. I know you're an expert in this field, so there's going to be so much we're going to talk about today. We have a presentation you're going to go through, but let's jump into red light. It is such a hot topic now. I mean, there's so many companies out there and so many people have questions. Does it really work? Is it just a trend? Who can we trust? So I wanted to kind of break down, first of all, let's go into your background. How did you get into photobiomodulation light therapy? I mean, 20 years ago, I know you know the Lord and I know he led you into this, but what is your background? How did you get into this?
I've been in electronic development for 45 years.
Wow.
So I've been at it for a long time, developed all sorts of devices over the years, anything from things that have gone on power lines all the way down to things that have gone 3 miles into the ground in oil wells. And many different devices, even including operate big operating room lights that you would see that go into your hospitals, to many other devices. So back about it'd be about 18, 19 years ago, I was shown this new high power LED. And at that point, there was no such thing as really high power LEDs, but I was shown the first ones anyways. So at that point, LEDs were just a tiny little dot that was on your electronic, maybe your radio or your TV, but that would be it. And this fellow showed me this LED and he says, "Can you do something with it?" And it was very expensive. A single LED would be $70. And what would you do with that? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, three of these would be required to make a 100-watt light bulb. So that wouldn't go very far. But as I was going through the information that he gave me, one of the suggestions they made was maybe in the field of dentistry. And I thought, I can do something with that. Instead of so $170 LED inside of a device could mean for a $2,000 device. So this was our device here. And the dentist would use that and put it in the back of the mouth. I won't put it in the mouth, but there's one very, very powerful LED inside here. And that was what would cure your filling material with the right wavelength coming out of this tip. What was really nice is I designed it so that it's very easy to go inside your mouth, whereas you didn't have to rack your mouth way open for the dentist. So I was one of the first ones to have this kind of technology along with 3M. It was at the same time. So I had made this. Now, if you would have told me back then that I'm going to shine some red light on your arm and it would get better, I would have told you you're crazy. You're smoking something. But in this case, I wouldn't have gone there. But as it was, my wife had been ill for quite some time. She had hyperthyroidism. She had her thyroid removed, and along the way, and they said just remove the thyroid, everything would go away. And there was still lots of problems. So at one point, she was even bedridden for a year and a half. So, and I was looking after the kids, trying to run the family, trying to run an electronics business, and trying to look after my wife. So that really was important. Talk about the path in your life. I wouldn't have chosen that, but in her case, that was the challenge she had. And for myself, I fell off a ladder. I was going the second floor height doing putting a window in, and I fell off. The ladder took off, and I fell off a second floor height onto concrete, and really bad flying lessons for the day. And I hurt myself. I didn't break anything, but I hurt my back. And every year, 2 years, I'd bend over and pick something up, and it would be so very, very painful. I'd go into these muscle spasms that would last for months. So that was kind of the back end story of what set me up to be ready for the next event. So I took my two different people showed up at my facility where I designed things for all these different companies, and they both said to me, "Hey, for your wife, you should consider going to this one doctor." And that was about a half an hour drive from where I was. And I thought, hey, two different people told me the same thing the same day, and they didn't know each other. That's when my antenna goes up and says, "Okay, okay, Lord, what do you have for me? What's going on here?" So I went and took my wife there to this doctor, and he's analyzing her background, and she didn't have cancer, but she had these other issues, and so he's going through everything, and I had been self-employed at this point. I've been self-employed for quite some time, and it's usually very, very stressful running a business, especially when you're trying to make ends meet and do all those kinds of things. And there's no payroll to pay yourself. And, you run on empty and you borrow from Peter to pay Paul and all that kind of stuff. So what happened is I took her there, and he's asking her all these questions. And he says, stress can cause also all sorts of problems. And he says, can you get rid of any stress in your life? Well, she's pointing at me. I'm the stress maker. So he turned his focus from her over to me and said, "What do you do?" I says, "Well, I make this powerful light that can cure a filling material with blue light." He says, "Can you make it in red?" I'm like, "Why red?" He says, "Well, red is the right wavelength to photoactivate a drug that kills cancer." And I was like, "Hey, I'm in. I'll help you." And as it would work out, he had bought this expensive drug for both of his patients, and his brother was very wealthy, so he was able to do that, and he had all the toys any doctor could possibly want. But he bought the drug for the two patients. One had the woman had breast cancer, and the guy had cancer on his throat, and so they weren't doing well through the normal system. And he had done all this research about this specific drug that would be activated with the red light. So, he asked me, "Can you make it in red?" And I says, "Okay, sure." And that day, he was going to go and buy. If you can imagine this, he was going to go buy 10 of those red laser pointers and put them together with elastic bands and do the treatments on his two patients. And there's not a lot of power behind one of these laser pointers. So I said, "No, no, no. Just can you wait 3 weeks?" And we built the first high power LED system using water cooling to allow us to cool the LEDs. And it was about this big, the light head, but it was extremely intense. And I delivered it to him in 3 weeks. And I had no problem believing light could activate a drug because, well, with the dentistry, what happens? Light activates the compound in your tooth. So it wasn't a hard stretch for me. But so I made the light in 3 weeks. I delivered it on time, and he treated both cancer patients. And within 1 month, both patients had their cancer shrink significantly. And so this was like, to me, wow, that I could make such a difference in somebody's life like this. And I always heard the mantra, "Hey, the cure for cancer is just around the corner." And here I'm on it, you know?
Mm.
So I'm like, I was blown away. And I ended up then keep improving the light to where we treated even stage 4 breast cancer, and with a woman that had ulcerated tumor on her breast and metastasis. And working with this doctor, we cleaned up both the metastasis and the cleaned up the breast. And she lived quite a number of years after that, probably close to 10 years after that event. So imagine that, or 12 years, I guess it's 12 years. But to be able to help her in that way was phenomenal. And it just opened my mind to this. But again, if you would have taken a light and said, "Here, Tom, put this on your elbow, some light," I said, "Yeah, what's that supposed to do? I'm not taking any drug. I don't have any compound on my shoulder or anything like that." So, but what happened was after about 2, 3 months of me having delivered this light, I needed to get it back to do some little tweaking to it to make some improvements on it. So I got it back from the doctor, and it was just then that I ended up picking up a piece of paper off the floor or something, and all of a sudden I had that nasty, nasty muscle spasm that took place. And it would last me sometimes 4 or 5 months. I'd do everything possible. I'd have chiropractic, I'd have, everything I could, stretching, you name it, to try and get better. But, wow, it was so painful, and I thought, "Hmm, I heard something about this light therapy. I wonder, will it do anything for me?" So I took that powerful light and I put it behind my chair, and I was working on something, and the pain probably was at about an 8 out of 10. It's like so powerful, that so heavy duty that it's screaming at you. And about 20 minutes later, I'm like, what just happened? I don't have that pain in my, like severe. And I was able to stand up and almost touch my toes. And that all took place in 20 minutes. And I thought, oh my gosh, this can really help a lot of people. And because I had this back injury, um, I ended up getting, realizing how important this would be
Mm.
to the chiropractic field and physiotherapy and just general.
Mhm.
So that's how I got into using light, working with light, and at that point, I continued to keep developing the lights for more and more power and different applications.
Amazing.
So
And we're going to talk about all the applications in a minute because I know you're going to go through your presentation. I just love the fact that, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And oh, and then he created all these amazing things that are natural, right? Alkaline water and all these frequencies. Speaking of frequencies, I literally have the Rife machine working right next to me. It's in our portfolio as well. And I've been praying to God because I know the benefits of red light therapy. I've had some myself. I've noticed pain disappear. I've noticed redness on my face go away over time of using red light therapy. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. This is such an answer to prayer, Tom. And the fact that you are one of the leading experts in this field is even more exciting. So let's talk about, before we get to the presentation and all the ways to apply red light therapy. And you guys are going to see some photos. Some are going to be a little graphic, the before and after of real red light therapy, which again is amazing.
in the beginning, I was like, okay, how do I make this light that will work for this? But LEDs were far too expensive, so I thought, the sun is people lived a really long time under the sun. Methuselah, right? So what is it about the sun? And you just can't quickly bring it into a room and use the sun. So what's closest to the sun? And that's a halogen bulb. Now, people are aware of those halogen bulbs that used to be in the ceiling. They still have them as pot lights and that, but not the halogen anymore. You put your hand in front of it, and it'd be burning hot. But that was closest to the sun. So how was I going to filter away the heat? It's the far infrared that makes the heat on the skin. So when you go past a hot stove, that energy, radiant energy, is actually far infrared, and it heats up the water in your skin. One of the things in Genesis 1:6, it says, He separated the waters from the waters. So here, let's say this is my water. He separated the waters from the waters and called the space sky. So did that mean that there was a layer of water in the upper atmosphere? And that's a theory called the vapor canopy theory. And that would be that the sunlight was actually shining through a layer of water in the upper atmosphere. If that happened, we wouldn't have anywhere near the skin cancers or anything like that happening. It would also create extra atmospheric pressure, which would mean that you could be like living in a hyperbaric chamber. You'd heal so fast. So, what was it? And I'm thinking, that's cool, learning all this stuff. And now roll it back to 18 years ago, and I'm thinking, 17 years ago, I'm thinking, I like to use halogen light. How do I get this very, very hot bulb to give me energy I want without the heat? And I remember being in the shower one morning and it was like, have you thought of the vapor canopy theory? And I heard it. And what happened was I stole two of my wife's lasagna dishes, put them back to back like this, put some silicone around it, put some water in between, just like the layer of water in the upper atmosphere. And when I shone the light through the air, through the two layers of glass, it was super hot. And when I dropped it down shining through the water, no heat. All the far infrared was taken out. And we developed that product and multiple prototypes and everything. And that's how I got the first lights to work with high power light from the visible spectrum into the near infrared to come in and heal people. So we saved people's legs from being amputated. We healed all sorts of different skin conditions to aches and pains on the body, all because I believed in the Bible, Genesis 1:6. So here's just to give you an idea, I'll just take a piece of paper here and I'll just do a little quick demonstration. This really should be quite helpful. This is kind of like one of these panels that you can get, and it's got these lights on it. There's a problem. Do you see where all the spaces in between is no energy? There's just
Mm.
energy just on the spot itself. Well, that means if I'm trying to bring this up to my shoulder to do treatments, I got a few spots of light. But in this case, when you start working with our devices that are far more expensive, if I shine through it, see how even that light is? So
Okay.
you can't, it's just so even the light coming from here, but there's if I you can see the LEDs in here, but they're really close together. And
Mm.
that's why we can have such an even amount of light as you see in this picture here right now.
Wow.
So
That's a huge
that's
difference.
really, really important. So instead of taking one of these panels that's way out here, you'd have to shrink, like you'd have to squeeze it down to a little thing about this size. Now you might be getting close to what we have as far as a power density. This is light coming through the skull. See, I've got the light here and I'm putting it on here and you can see it coming. It's kind of hard to see, but there you
Coming through.
see as
Yeah.
I move it around, it's going right, that light is going right through the skull. And if I was to put a sensor on the other side, you would find that you get a certain amount of energy through this real human skull at 660 nanometer, which is the bright red. But when I go to 810 nanometer, which is near infrared, either 810 or 1050, there's 10 to 20 times more energy. So the other way around, it's going through that way from outside, right? So there's 10 to 20 times more energy that's coming. See how that's going through the skull at the 810. The only challenge with the 810 is you can't see very much. It doesn't look like much, but it's actually penetrating much deeper. It turns out that there's all sorts of published papers now that are coming out. Some of them from a few years ago, where light can on the skull, if there's enough power in a certain area, can have a positive impact on the neurological disorder. and of all kinds of things that are going on. And one of the more recent things I've learned about is so many of the diseases are related to mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning the mitochondria is not working properly. That happens not only anywhere else on the body, but it also happens inside the brain. And then you have inflammation on the brain, which also is a problem. And if you can get rid of the inflammation on the brain, you can improve that person. You can help them so that when they start taking supplements, they're doing other things to help for their brain to detox, that now they can actually improve because they're doing multiple things, kind of like biohacking, multiple things at the same time, all working synergistically with each other. So the light is just a beautiful application tied in with other things that could really help people. And we've seen it firsthand. So next slide, please.
Well, I was actually going to ask you when you were shining the red light through the skull, why it's important to use it on the brain. Normally, people think just the tissues or pain or muscles, but even in your brain.
Beautiful things happen when let's say just talk about the red light first. Let's say 660 nanometer. That light can go through the skull, and as I mentioned, it's not going to go quite as hard or as much through the skull, but it is getting through the skull into the outer layer of the brain. And what that does is there's a vasodilation, so it allows for much better blood flow through the outside wall of the brain, which allows then for not only new blood to come in, but toxins to be removed. So having red light go through is very stimulatory that way to the vessels, and you get not only extra blood flow, but you also get the lymphatic system inside the brain to help reduce the toxins in the brain. And then now red light can also go in limited depth, but it can also go in and put energy in the cells. And it's just like photobiomodulation is just like the trees. You don't think of the trees outside or the plants or the grass that has photoreceptors in the leaves, and it takes that light in and converts it to energy. And as a matter of fact, we have that built into our bodies as well, beautifully designed, where the light can be absorbed by these cells and converted to energy, specifically in the mitochondria, the power plant of the cell. So if you put energy into the cell, it's absolutely beautiful. It can do all sorts of things. It's like putting high amount of energy into the gas or pouring gasoline into your gas tank, high octane fuel, and now your car can take off like a jet. This is the same thing that's happening when you put light on the brain. We've been able to see strokes, concussions, Parkinson's, dementia, brain fog, insomnia. All of these things can be helped with using PBM, or specifically any device, which is pretty limited, that has enough power to go into the brain. And we definitely have that. Our helmet's the most powerful light on the planet. And the other side effects, so to speak, is not directly thinking of the brain, is dealing with seizures, tinnitus, eye issues, smell and taste. We've seen all these things improve using the helmet, which is pretty crazy. As I say, we have the most powerful helmet on the planet, delivering for those techies out there 25,000 milliwatts of optical power, which relates to 25 joules every second of energy is coming into the skull very, very evenly. Our approximate power density is 50 milliwatts per square centimeter, where the sun gives off 100 milliwatts per square centimeter. So we're kind of like at half the power of the sun coming into your brain. We do have the two wavelengths of 660-810 or the 660-1050. I've spent a lot of time in design over all these years, these 45 years, and I came up with a patent pending cooling system that allows this very, very powerful device to be on 10 locations on your brain. So it's just like having one of the palm lights and you're putting it on the brain in 10 locations. And in a 4-minute treatment, we've been able to see all those other things happen. We've got ways to create, if people want to go with pulsing, we can do that. We've also got timers. There's different other options that are available. Next slide, please. I just will be talking about applications, the different products, applications of the PBM, how we can speed up healing. We got slides on that, comparing LED or different LED devices out there. And what's the difference? Why can't I just go to Amazon and buy it for $100? Here's, sorry about the graphics here. The next two slides will be, so if you can't get into this, or you just turn to the side. But here's an individual that, a 19-year-old that swung a pickaxe and it went through the dirt much faster than he thought. And so the axe came around, the pickaxe, and came around just above his ankle and cut his tendon right through. They attached the tendon and then it fell apart in 2 days. They had to do a secondary operation. So you can imagine the amount of trauma that's going on in this area, and the swelling. But look at, we did it. They had a cast, and the cast was cut in such a fashion that they could put the cast on and off. So in this case, 2 weeks after the accident, after the operation to heal, you can see he immediately started using the light 3 times. One of these, like this kind of light that it just showed you, one of these devices, a little bit bigger than that, was different model that we had, but just basically the same. He treated himself 3 times a day. 2 weeks, you can see that the swelling has come down. Well, you didn't really see the in between swelling, but the swelling had come down. 3 weeks now, they had told him that it would be 6 to 9 months before he'd be walking. Here is him walking at 4 weeks, and he was not supposed to walk for 6 to 9 months. You can see the range of motion even at 3 weeks after this major operation. Another gruesome slide coming up. Okay, this is a diabetic foot ulcer on the left. The person was going to have their foot amputated in 1 week. It was scheduled, and they used my palm light. They got the palm light in the hospital, used it undercover, and they were able to cancel within 1 week. They canceled the surgery because it started looking so much better. And in 2 months, it had healed to what you see there. And in another 2 more months, it was totally healed. So this person did not lose their foot.
And how many times did this person use that handheld device on her
W-
foot?
Once a day for 20 minutes
Wow.
with both wavelengths. This would be our super palm that was used in this case.
It's so amazing because the Lord is so good. There's like no invasive anything happening. It's just a light that you shine on to a part of your body, and there's healing components in light. I mean, wow, it's just so
Well,
cool to me.
as a matter of fact, that comes out of Malachi 4:2. The Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its rays. And there's a play on words because it's spelled S-U-N of righteousness. This is a woman. We'll just say about this woman. She had her arm right up here. She could not pull it down. She had a stroke, and this video goes on to talk about how in one treatment, in 20 minutes, she was able to pull her husband was able to pull her hand beside her, as you see it straightened out. But for 2 months, she could not pull it down. She was also paralyzed, partially paralyzed in her leg as well. So couldn't pull this down without extreme pain. After the treatment, no pain. So this is my granddaughter. She was mixing Jello with my son-in-law, and he did it before many times with her, and this time he poured the boiling water into the bowl, and she decided to pull the bowl towards herself, and the bowl flipped and poured the boiling water down her leg. There was second and third degree burns there. Sometimes they have to get into even grafting. But in this case, my daughter used our panel, the one that's in my picture here, over the leg area, and you can see by day 6, it's all scabbed over, and by day 8, all the scabs fell off, and within a month, you could still see the discoloration and of the area, but it was all healed up on day 8, like all healed over. But in 2 years, 2 years later, there was no visible scars whatsoever. But if this wouldn't have been treated, this would have been an ongoing process for much, much longer, and with pain as well, which is something that you can avoid using photobiomodulation. And not only that, no scars.
How does it
It's
work?
giving the mitochondria energy, which it can absorb, and then that allows the mitochondria to work better, creates high amount of vasodilation, so you get more blood flow through the area. You get it's got an antiseptic property, and also a numbing effect. So it helps that way. There's so many um, factors that come into way mechanisms that are involved as soon as you shine the light on these cells, and the cells go nuts and start dividing. And this is myself. I flipped. I didn't see. I was turning around, and I ended up catching the concrete in the middle of the road, and I fell face forward. I didn't even have a chance to stop my fall. So I basically, my head bounced off my face bounced off the sidewalk. I lost my front tooth, and normally, what doctors have pointed out is that 4 days later, I should have been black and blue everywhere with that kind of trauma to my face, and nothing. And I already was healing quite fast because of it. Here's just an example of when you're dealing with lasers versus LEDs. On the left-hand side, you see the LED, and what I did is I toned down one of the LEDs by 80 times so that it'd be a very low power, being the same kind of optical power as this laser pointer. Okay. And what people don't realize is that they think, oh, a laser, if I point that at my sciatic hip joint, it's just going to go right there, right to the area where I am. It doesn't, right to where the injury is, or where the damage is. And it's not the case. Laser, as soon as it goes into the first layers of skin, now I'm going to try and do this. It's not the easiest thing to do, but I'm going to just kind of cover the light. No, it's not showing up. It's better I have to turn off the light here. But what happens is the light diffuses in all directions. Let's see. There we go. Let's do that. You see how even the light is? And that's just a little laser pointer. Oh, sorry. There we go. Look at how that. So it no longer, even though it's a point of light, it immediately diffuses in all directions. So it doesn't, just because it's a laser, doesn't mean that it's going to penetrate deeper. On the right, so that's the laser pointer, and you can see that the light from my LED is spreading out very quickly. So it illuminates the whole fingertip on the bottom. But you see left and right, there's no difference between the two. So when they're the same power, they got the same penetration. So this is an easy way to demonstrate it. Next slide, please. That also means it's extremely safe. Um, with lasers, you absolutely have to wear laser glasses, because that dot of light could go back into the back of your eye and damage your back of your eye. With an LED, because it's diffused, it doesn't harm the back of the eyes. Really, safety glasses are not necessary. But in dentistry, hey, you don't want to make a mistake that you might not use the light. But in this case, we've helped people with eyesight problems with our LED devices.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
ask you
we
because it's a big thing in run light therapy that you don't have to wear the glasses because it's actually good for your eyes and there's healing benefits.
Well, we got 3 people. We got seniors. We got who have improved their vision, and they're doing it with 1 minute of the red and 1 minute of the near infrared light. There's the two wavelengths that you can get on this, and they've improved their eyesight by using this. Matter of fact, we got three people that were totally blind that now see. That
Oh.
is crazy, and that's using the light.
Do they make sure their eye is naked? No, no lenses, no contacts, right? You want to shine.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter because what I suggest people do all the time, whenever they use this light therapy, is to close their eyelids because the eyelids will actually diffuse the light in all directions. So you wouldn't go out on the beach and stare at the sun.
Hmm.
Neither should you stare at even LEDs. But as it turns out, if you close your eyelids, the light scatters in all directions. And anybody from Florida knows that there's no signs on the beach saying you'll go blind if you sunbathe for an hour. It doesn't happen because you close your eyelids, it scatters the lights and keeps the energy to a safe level coming into the eyes. So this is an example of how light can penetrate between 660 on the left. You can see it coming through my cheek, but on the right, 810 nanometer is not only going through my cheek, but it's also going through my gum. So you can see how much better the penetration is on the right hand side. This is a cool video. I suggest people watch it at home later on. It's on our website, but this fellow Tyson, he had a really bad concussion. He couldn't read, had to stay in a dark room, had headaches, um, and with after like two treatments, he was able, like even after the first treatment, he was able to read a book again. And one day he couldn't. He'd get nauseous, and immediately following he'd be fine. It's a fascinating video. So Parkinson's, this guy could not. This is another great video to watch at some point. And this fellow could not smile, and I cracked a joke, and he's laughing, and that is not possible for people who've had Parkinson's for a while. So that was only within 2 months of treatment for 4 minutes. So he couldn't smile. He had lack of energy. He had loss of taste and smell for years, and he got that back. And when people would come over, he wouldn't engage with anybody. And in this video, you can watch where he's actually, his wife said that during Christmas time, he was talking to everybody that was coming through. So at their home. So here's stroke recovery. We've been able to help with strokes. This individual on the left, he was had a stroke, and 2 months later, he still couldn't speak clearly. Like it was really, really difficult for him to speak, and you couldn't understand him if you tried. One treatment, and the next day he was able to speak clearly. Another kid with concussions, this one in particular, was seeing double, and after the first treatment, he could seeing double and was in rough shape. And again, also nauseous, had to be in a dark room, all those things. And one treatment, the next day, he had a patch on his eye because it was so bad, the double vision. Well, when he came back for his treatment 2 days later, he could see clearly, no double vision. And then when he went in, before he went in to get it's only 4 minutes of treatment. It was light unit was in one of the helmet was in one of the rooms. So that's one of these devices here. I'll just swing it around. This is the helmet right here. This is our SunPower LED helmet. It's basically 10 of our palm devices, and it's really, really bright on the 660 nanometer, and you feel the energy coming out of it. And then this is the 810. So 810, you can just see the glow of the LEDs there, but that just goes on the head like this, like that, and depending on which wavelength you select, there's the 660 nanometer light, and it does beautiful things in even 4 minutes. So we've been able to help people with all those things that I mentioned in the beginning: strokes, concussions, you name it, has been helped with that device. We have a large canopy which covers a whole large area of your body too. This is more for clinics and that. This is an example of a person who had heart surgery, and they harvested his veins and put them in open heart surgery here. And you can see within 1 month that whole scar, the whole area where they cut through was all nicely healed up, and he used the light daily. This is his forearm and also his thigh. So he's basically putting his leg beside his thigh. Oh, sorry, his leg beside his forearm beside his thigh, and you can see how you can barely see the cut mark on his arm where they harvested the vein. But on his leg, it wasn't as good. You can see there's puckering, there's some redness there. It turns out that he treated himself every day with the light on his arm, but he only treated his leg once a week because he likes to wear long pants. So, his leg did not do as well by only being treated once a week. Next slide, please. Dentists, I've got a lot of dentists using this device for the masseter muscle um, and people that are dealing with TMJ, TMD. So you can treat the different muscles, the temporalis muscle as well. Very, very easy. People really are stuck on lasers. They think lasers are still better than LEDs, and I needed to correct that, needed to present some research on it. So I went to England, and I had this research study that I presented, and I did it at the one university. And I was able to show the International Conference on Photobiomodulation. Next slide, please. This is a space ball. No, it's not a space ball. It's a special device for allowing me to measure. And with this, I was able to prove if I had 5 watts of light from our device, 5,000 milliwatts of light from our device, and compare it to 5 watts from a laser at 1050, there really wasn't any difference between the two. After going through, we did stake thickness of 3/4 of an inch, inch and a half, and 2 1/4 inch, and saw how much light was going through it. And this ball allows me to very, very accurately measure how much energy is coming through when I put the right test equipment inside. I've got a lot of test equipment. Yep, thank you. Go ahead. Next slide. This is one of the professors I've been working with. He's got all sorts of research on mechanisms, and I did that at his lab. And this is a study talking about accelerated burn and wound healing with photobiomodulation. And there's a certain TGF beta, again, something that the research studies that show this. And by the way, if you go on our website and go down to the bottom of the down to the research, go over to the research tab, and then go down, you can find a lot of research information there. As a matter of fact, one of them is called PBM research, and there's over 7,500 research articles there on light, using light. And now they used to call it, like I said, levels laser, low level laser, but this fellow pulled it all beautifully together. And so you can look at many different indications on the body. So this is an example of me. On the left, you see our light therapy device, just the sun power LED, just sitting on top of that ball. And then I would put the steak in between, or chicken or pork. So on the middle slide, we're using a laser on the chicken, and on the right hand side, we're using the laser on pork. So we're able to measure and compare. What's it like? Is there going to be any difference? How far is it going to penetrate? Those kinds of things. If you look at from the middle of the graph to the far right, very little difference between a laser and LED. Now, there is a difference when it comes to cost. Our device is about $1,900. The laser is about $25,000. So for $1,900, you can get pretty much the same energy, in this case, through 2 1/4 inches of chicken. And now I realize we're not chicken, but we are, human beings. But this was one way of demonstrating light penetrating through different tissues like chicken, pork, and steak. And even with unless you're trying to you are a dentist and you need to have light on one specific little spot of, inside the mouth, there's no reason that you need to buy one of those expensive lasers to get the treatment that you need. And we have been able to treat sciatic hip pain on individuals, which means you got to have a lot of light to go in quite deep to make an effect. And we have that with our palm devices. So here's just another example. This is pork, and we're looking at 660 in the left-hand side, 820 nanometer, and 1064. And you can see the red is the LED, the blue is the laser. In this case, we had a little bit better effect for the 660 and 810. When it came to the 1064, the laser started performing just a hair bit better when it comes to going through the tissue. Okay, we have different devices. We have the Palm Professional, the Ultimate, which is basically the same two wavelengths. You see the 660 and 810. And then when it comes to the third unit, there is our Super Palm, which is 660, 1050. And there is a coupon code to get a discount.
Use coupon code healthy for 10% off. Why not get 10% off? Amazing. Thank you for offering that to our audience. That's exciting.
You're welcome. Hey, it's great to be able to work with you, and I thank you so much for bringing us on to open the door for people to see this, not only see this presentation, but hey, if they get one of the lights, they can receive, get rid of pain and inflammation and speed up healing on their body. So
It's an honor because we want to have the best of the best education and the best of the best products. We don't want to waste our money, me included. And I know my audience too. We don't want to waste our money on things that don't work. Like I had a panel that I bought on Amazon for $500 a few days before I met you. And then I came home, I shipped that guy back, and then I ordered yours because of what I saw when you demonstrated the skull in person and I felt it, I put the helmet on and I was like, wow, this is so much more powerful. Why would I not put a little bit more into
look at it
investing?
go through my hand. Look at it go through my hand. That's
Wow.
how much power. Now that's the 660. When I change it to the 810, you can't see it. The camera can't pick it up, but much more is coming through the hand, 10, 20 times more
Wow.
coming through the hand.
Right. That's the near infrared that goes deep into the muscles and the tendons. And
Correct, correct. And so we have the 1050 as well. That if people want to go to that, it's a more expensive LED, has the potential to do just a little bit more as far as there's some other processes that can happen. So that would be the Super Palm 1050. We've got not just one little product, we got multiple. When it comes to the helmet in the middle of the screen, that's like 10 of the palm lights all over the brain. And there's another competitor out there that sells their unit for $40,000, and it's about a third of the power that we have. So we have a lot less price and a lot more power. And we have the large canopy, as you see in the upper slide, left-hand corner, and then the mini canopy on the left.
thank you for all the education and going through all the details. I know I enjoyed it. I know my audience will too. We're health enthusiasts, health and wellness inside out. First, spiritually, knowing Jesus, the true light of the world. Amen. And then through all of these godly technologies, like I said, I have the Rife machine working as we're talking. These are amazing frequencies too. I have my light frequency coming in the mail soon. So, Mr.
We're just using a little piece of light that he's created in the first place.